When you think about what really makes the global economy tick, what comes to mind? Big government policies, Wall Street trading floors. Well, yeah, but that's not the whole story. Some of the most powerful forces are the ones we never even see. These simple, invisible agreements that quietly dictate how everything, from money to cargo ships, moves around the world. So let's pull back the curtain on this hidden world of economic standards. So who is writing these rules? Who's the one calling the shots on what counts as a valid payment, or how goods are supposed to be measured, or how all these complex transactions get settled? The answer? Well, it might not be who you think. A lot of the time, it's not a government or some giant bank, it's just a standard, a shared playbook that basically everyone agrees to use. Think of it less like a law handed down from on high and more like a common language that just sort of evolves because it makes life easier and cheaper for everybody involved. This is the quiet machinery running everything in the background. But that begs the question, right? Why do these things become so powerful? What is it that makes millions of different people and companies all decide to follow the exact same invisible set of instructions? The logic behind it is actually pretty beautiful. And this, right here, really gets to the heart of it. Before a standard, things are messy. It's kind of the Wild West. Every single transaction requires extra negotiating, extra translating, and it carries extra risk. But once a standard is in place, boom, all that friction just melts away. Costs plummet, arguments decrease, and things get settled way faster. It simply becomes the cheapest and easiest way for everyone to do business. And that's when this incredible thing called the network effect kicks in. It's a really simple idea. The more people that adopt a standard, the more valuable it becomes for everyone else to join in. This creates a powerful feedback loop where success just breeds more success, pulling in more and more people until the standard becomes totally dominant. But here's the really fascinating part. A standard's true strength isn't just about how efficient it is. It's about the trust we put in it. This trust buffer you see here, that's the collective belief that the rules are going to hold up, even when things get really tough. At the end of the day, a standard is only as strong as our faith that it'll still be there for us during a crisis. But of course, these standards aren't set in stone. They're born, they grow, they get challenged. They basically have a life of their own. So let's trace the typical journey of an economic standard from just a simple idea to a massive pillar of the global system. Now, every standard story is a little different, but they often follow this general path. It starts with adoption, where a new rule gets created to solve a very specific problem. Then comes expansion, when that network effect we talked about kicks in and it just grows and grows. But then, inevitably, comes a challenge. A war, a financial shock, something big that tests the system's credibility. And that usually leads to recalibration, where the rules get tweaked and adjusted to be stronger and more resilient for the future. Okay, so we've been talking about these rules in a pretty abstract way, but they have very, very real-world consequences. Let's be clear. These standards are not neutral. They create winners and losers, and by doing that, they play a huge role in deciding who holds the economic power. So who's on the winning side? Typically, it's the bigger players. The large networks, the stable economies, they can spread the costs of following the rules across their huge operations. And who pays the price? Well, it's often the smaller players, or economies with a lot more volatility. When the rules get tighter, the folks with the smallest buffer are the ones who feel the squeeze first and the hardest. This whole thing sets up a fundamental trade-off that pretty much everyone has to weigh. Do you join the club? Do you adopt the standard to gain access to all the massive benefits of the network? Or do you try to go it alone, to preserve your own autonomy and flexibility, but risk getting left out in the cold? And honestly, there's no easy answer to that question. And this is where the rubber really hits the road. During geopolitical conflicts, when sanctions are on the table, these quiet, boring administrative rules suddenly become incredibly powerful instruments of power. They become the very tools that determine who is allowed to trade, who gets paid, and who gets completely locked out of the global economic system. So, after this whole journey into this hidden world, What are the big takeaways? What does the long history of economic standards teach us about the world we're living in right now? It really boils down to 4 timeless lessons. First, standards are social contracts. They only work because we all believe they work. Second, having a backup plan is a good thing. Redundancy is a feature, not a bug. Having alternative systems or lifeboats is absolutely critical. Third, we always have to ask who wins and who loses. We have to mind those distributional effects. And finally, and this might be the most important one, never underestimate quiet power. The ability to set the administrative rules of the game is one of the most potent forms of influence there is. And at the end of the day, that's what this is all about. Standards don't shout, they whisper. They whisper instructions that shape the actions of millions. They are the invisible architecture of our economic lives. The quietest power is still power. And now you know a little more about how to see it.